So it's much more about the work and the performance, the room that it's in. At the same time, a good mic behind a good room and a good performance can make that performance easier or allow it to come through better, I guess is probably a better way to put it.
Shine.
Right. A great mic doesn't make a great performance. It will capture a bad performance or a good performance. But with all things created equal, if the performance is great, a great mic will capture it a little bit better.
There's a lot of hyperbole about the difference between an expensive mic and a cheap mic. I wonder is there any way to articulate in practice how much of an improvement, getting that U87 plugged in versus like an NT1, how much of an improvement that's going to make? Because it's not as much of a difference as a lot of people think it is.
It's pretty interesting. I feel like that in the last decade or so, we've seen a proliferation of lower cost microphones that do sound really good from major manufacturers, in addition to boutique manufacturers and guys who also will mod, cheaper microphones into more expensive sounding microphones.
Yeah.
So my feeling is that, you can certainly find, if you're willing to put in the time and the search and use your ears to find the right combination. There are plenty of microphones out there that are around the $300 price point or so that you're not necessarily going to notice $700 worth of difference between that microphone and a $1,000 microphone.
Yeah.
There might be some differences, some subtle differences, but it may not be worth $700 of difference.
I agree completely, and I guess that $700 difference depends hugely on where you are in your career and how important those fine details are to you. There's the law of diminishing returns. The more you spend, the less the improvement. And once you get above a certain level, it just becomes about the flavor that you like or that your engineer likes, or even which one you think is the prettiest hanging in your room, because they're all very, very good.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that, guys like Emmett and myself and, we listen to microphones all day long, or certainly have, and we listen to, in a very critical listening environment, whereas most of the things that end up on air are being listened to by people who don't care what the difference is, in how much you spent on a microphone. And they don't notice the difference between the two. And they're also listening on computer speakers or earbuds or in their car or on the television speakers, so they're not really paying attention. Now, one thing that I can certainly tell you from having, worked on some video projects and film projects is, people are willing to forgive, some poor quality video, but they tend not to forgive poor quality sound. So that is something that is important to keep in mind, because if something sounds bad, it's really hard to listen to and to maintain their attention, for a long period of time. Whereas if something is kind of poor video quality but has great sound, they'll still watch.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy sometimes that, for instance, as we progress along and, bandwidth and speed and things like that, a lot of companies have been focused on, getting better video quality. It's been a lot more recent than people have actually cared more about getting better sound quality.